Hello and welcome to Mindful Minecraft. My name is Andrew and this is All the Mods 9. Last episode, we assembled a mechanism ore doubling setup and made our reactor to secure ourselves some power. Now at the end of the episode, I mentioned the secret items that I would be getting into in this episode, so I've been preparing. I've got our machine crafted up and I'm going to go over exactly how we are going to set this up and why it's so powerful for us. As you can see here, I've left this machine running since last episode to show you how powerful it really is. Not everyone has all day or extended periods of time to play, so I think additions to the pack like this are crucial to progression for some people. There are purists out there that don't like this type of stuff, but I'd like to say that no matter what, this game was designed for you to play it however you want, not how other people want you to. With that being said, we have a few things to go over and I'd like to jump into that. First, we're going to assemble our RF Tools Builder Quarry. Then we will jump into the changes that have been made to our mechanism ore doubling factory and why. After that, we're going to go exploring and find ourselves a slime. We are going to need to automate slime as soon as possible, and I'll explain why once we have found the slime. Lastly, we're going to jump into mystical agriculture because like I just said, we don't all have the amount of time necessary to farm certain resources, so passive automation is going to be the best bet for our Let's Play and the series as a whole. I hope you're ready. Get your favorite snack, your favorite beverage, and kick back and relax to episode 4 of our All the Mods 9 playthrough. So I'd like to show you how this builder works, right? This says builder, but do not be fooled by its name. It is quite the destroyer. As you can see here, we've got just a few resources. This thing, I left this thing going at the end of last episode and just let my game run. And let me tell you, I was not let down. I have infused this builder. There's a whole other machine we'll get into. I think I want to just show you how to craft this real quick. And then we can go ahead and we can set this up and you can see how it works as the base version. And then we'll infuse it later on. So jumping into our storage system here, we've got a couple things bookmarked and this is the infuser. We need this later on. But to start, you need the builder. It requires 4 aluminium nuggets, 1 pearl of any kind, 1 machine frame. We learned how to do this last episode when we made our coal generator, and then 3 blocks of redstone. Let's go ahead and craft that up. This will be my 3rd one, but you can never have too many of these. And then we're gonna need the shape card. The shape card can be used to build or destroy, but first we need to make it into a version that can destroy. Go ahead and just craft our bricks up real quick. Craft the shape card. And then we need to do the quarry. It's just a diamond pickaxe, a diamond shovel, 2 iron, 4 redstone, and that shape card. Then we need to turn that quarry card into a fortune quarry. This is going to require 4-dimensional shards, 1 gas tier, 1 emerald, 1 diamond, 1 redstone, and that quarry card. Now this dimensional shard, that's how we're going to infuse our machines. So you need a total of 4 stacks of it in order to infuse one builder all the way to 100%. The infusing bonus is reduced power consumption and increased speed. So the higher that is, the higher the consumption is going to be, and then the faster it's going to mine. You can infuse this whenever you want. You're just going to need to make the machine infuser. It's 1 more machine frame, 4-dimensional shards, 2 diamonds, and 2 redstone. Now, all you have to do is put this down, power it, put your machine in that you want to infuse, such as the builder, and then put your stacks of dimensional shards in. And moving on, we need to make a filter, and this is simple. It's just 1 hopper, 2 redstone, 1 iron ingot, and 1 paper. I've already got one set up here for us. I'll show you how we're going to do this. In order to get your ores here, let's just say iron ores, all you need to do is change this blacklist to whitelist, go to add tags. Let's just say we want to add gold to the list here. You just find your tag. It's also simple enough that you can just type in, let's say diamond, and then you're going to have to go down and you're going to have to find Minecraft diamond ores. Whatever you want, you just need to make sure it says ores behind it, and it'll show you what it can mine. So let's just go ahead and let's put this simple filter here in our builder and I can show you how this works. So I have a shape card set up, but I'll show you how this works. So if you notice this shape card here, it's got a shape and it has hollow or solid. We want it on solid. And then we also want to make sure that our dimension is, large enough that it'll reach a large enough place and get as many ores as we can. I like to usually start with just 128. This is our X value, by 256, that's our Y value, by 128, which is our Z value. Now we're gonna wanna offset this, and I'll show you how to do this after we put it in the machine. But then you can void things that you don't want. So I don't want any of this stuff, I don't need it. And then I wanna enable tag matching so that it'll get any other random stone variants or dirt variants or sand variants. We just right clicked it in, it's there, and we've got our filter here. So let's go ahead and pop that in. So I usually press this builder at northwest corner and then support/preview mode enabled. And as you can see here, we've got a 128 by 128 giant support block structure here. This is nothing, you can break it and it'll all disappear. But this is important because it just shows us where we're at. I'm just gonna leave it at -128, so it's one level below. The builder was in the center and that's where it anchored off of. That's why we put it at northwest corner. So now all we need is power and an inventory in order to make this work. Let's go ahead. You have to put your storage on top, or however you're getting items out of here on top. I do not believe this works with pipes. It has to be an inventory like a barrel or a chest or a backpack. And then let's just hook our power up. Now we're powered up, we're ready to go. We need to put a lever on this thing to give it redstone signal. And then let's put our stack upgrade and our compacting upgrade. Now I'm gonna go ahead and press start on this thing, and it's gonna start mining, and it's only gonna mine the things that we filtered. So as you can see, we've got our iron. And once this hits 9, it'll auto compact into a wrought iron block, and this just saves us a ton of space. See, there you go. Just like that. We're gonna let this go throughout the course of this episode as its base model with no upgrades or anything like that, so that you can see how powerful this thing is in a short amount of time. And hopefully we come back to a ton of stuff. So behind us, we have a little tiny refined storage setup, and that's why we need slime. I want to start the series off with refined storage, and we're going to get into applied energistics once we can auto-craft things using refined storage. I'm also going to set up refined storage, functional storage, and applied energistics into one system and show you how you can transfer things from refined storage into applied energistics and vice versa. We're going to save ourselves a ton of space using functional storage. The functional storage system will be the central system, right? In between our refined storage and our applied energistics, there will be functional storage storing all of our raw materials so that we can pull from our applied energistics system or our refined storage system whenever we want. So let's go ahead and let's go find us some slimes. We need slime. I've got a couple tools in the refined storage system over there that I'm gonna bring with me, and I'll show you once we get there. So we have our gyrodyne here, and then we've got our nature's compass set up with a swamp. I think that's our best bet with trying to find ourselves some slime. So let's head that direction. So we have our swamp about 800 blocks away, and we're just gonna head that direction. You'll see I've got a deep learner and a model framework. I will go over how to craft these once we get back with our slime. Now we have arrived in our swamp. Now it's time to find ourselves some slimes. They should be spawning, but we're gonna have ourselves a little fight here. But first, we gotta land, pick our gyrodyne up, and I have the model framework in my hand, as you see. Okay, this is taking entirely too long. So I'm just gonna play the footage I got and I'm gonna narrate over it because this is ridiculous. I have not seen a single slime and I've been standing here for like 2 or 3 in-game days. I will also just show you how this model framework works because it works the same no matter what you're using it on. It's just a matter of actually finding that thing and then getting the prescribed kill count. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use this model framework on these zombie. So you right click the zombie, you get the data model, you open your deep learner, you put the data model in there. I just put it in my offhand so I can see how many kills I need in order for it to level up. It needs to be past a faulty model in order for you to use it in our simulation chamber. So let's just go ahead. Let's get the kills for this real quick so I can show you how this works. All right, we're gonna go down into this cave here because we need to find some zombies to level up our data model. As you can see, it says we have 3 remaining, 2 remaining. Here we go, 1 left. And as you can see, that just leveled up to a basic model. So I just wanted to show you how important it is in order for you to like actually level the data model up. Because if you put this in and it's faulty, it's not going to simulate in the simulation chamber and you're not going to get anything and you'll be confused. So just remember that once you get your slime or whatever mob you want to do this with, you have to kill it a certain amount of times in order for it to like basically unlock itself and become accessible in that chamber. So I'm going to make my way back to base. And then we are going to set up our simulation chamber and I'll show you how we're going to get our slime. So as you can see here, we have a couple things set up. We have a model framework. This is what we just used in order to get our zombie and our slime. And then a deep learner, that's where we put that data model so that we can level it up and learn about that mob. Then we have prediction matrices. And these are used inside the simulation chamber here. It requires a prediction matrix and then whatever your data model is. So we have our slime data model. That prediction matrix is going to be used with the slime data model in the simulation chamber. It will get you with basic 5% chance of getting you a slime prediction, advanced a 22%, superior 65%, and self-aware 99.5%. And then if that simulation fails, you'll get a generalized overworld prediction. And you can see here, you can craft that with other mob drops and other items to get other drops. So this is super cool. It's super helpful and it's fairly cheap to make. The simulation chamber is where we put the model. It gets us our predictions. Then we have a loot fabricator. This is where we put those predictions to get our loot. So when you have those, you get to pick what loot you're getting from what mob you've put in that prediction. So we're going to get slime balls. We're going to get 32 per 1 slime prediction. And I think that's a pretty good conversion rate considering that this is only 128 FE per tick. That's not a bad little ratio of cost to reward. So starting with the model framework, what you're going to use to capture that mob, you need 4 clay balls, 2 redstone dust, 1 smooth stone, 1 redstone repeater, and 1 gold ingot. Then you need the deep learner. This is where we put that data model in. You need 4 obsidian, 3 redstone repeaters, 1 glass pane of any kind, and then 1 redstone dust. And then to get those prediction matrices, you get 16 per craft. You need 1 iron, 1 gold, 4 glass panes of any variety, and 1 clay ball. And for the simulation chamber, you need 1 redstone comparator, 1 obsidian, 1 glass pane of any kind, 2 ender pearls, 2 lapis lazuli. And then for the loot fabricator, you need 1 netherite ingot, 1 obsidian, 2 diamonds, 2 gold, and 1 comparator. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean an area up and we're going to make a hostile neural networks building that is set up solely to autocraft the prediction matrices. And then we're going to set up power and a little logistical setup in order to get this to work the whole way through. So as you can see, we've got our simulation chamber on the left side, and we've got our loot fabricator on the right, and then we've got our flux point right there in the center powering both of these. Now, we need a way to pull these generalized overworld predictions out of here and away from clogging our pipes, because if we were to just put a barrel here and then a transporter here and then open that up, what would happen if we had this also connected to the loot fabricator? It's not gonna pull this slime prediction over here automatically. So we need to change this and filter this so that it only pulls these generalized predictions into here and sends the slime predictions into here. So I always do that with a drawer. Drawers are the best like bit of filtering you can do if you don't have access to an actual filter upgrade for a pipe or something. I've never really dove that deep in a mechanism to see if you can do that, but this works just as good. So we put our little drawer here. This is going to fill up with our generalized overworld predictions. And anytime we get one of these little actual completed slime predictions, it'll automatically move into the loot fabricator over here. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a barrel down. I'm going to make sure that's not connected. Then I'm going to put this barrel down here and connect another transporter exporting out of this. And now no matter what, this will always feed those generalized predictions into the drawer here, and it will feed the slime predictions into the loot fabricator. And then once you've selected what you want, that will create and it'll export into your barrel here. Now, one way we can also step this up is I'm going to disconnect this here and then just put another drawer on top, pull that to export. We're going to lock these, then we're going to lock these. And I'm going to take and put the prediction matrices in this drawer. Now this will keep this topped off, and this is like manual automation, if that even makes sense. It's just passive. If you don't have anything in here, it's not going to be automated, but this is how we're going to do it for now, just so that we can get a good little stockpile of slime going on. This might have been a little complicated from the beginning, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. Hostile neural networks can be a little confusing sometimes because depending on the pipe mod you use or whatever logistical mod you use, sometimes it refuses to pull items to certain places. And this is my workaround. This is how I always do it. And I just wanted to share this with you because this is a really powerful way to get certain things that we can't always just go farm. So I hope this one helped. If you enjoyed this one, please let me know, because I can continue to do my personal little workarounds that a lot of people don't always do. So it's just another set of eyes on things. It kind of changes depending on what the mod is. I think this is a great way to do it. So we've gone over how we're going to get our slime. We've gone over our RF tools quarry, and next up, I think we should talk about our mechanism setup here. So I went ahead and I changed this up back here, and I added these massive dynamic tanks that can store a ridiculous amount of gas. So these are actually super cheap if you have a good steel production set up. And we showed last episode how to do that steel production. I'm going to go over and showcase how to do these factories with a small steel production so that you can see how we made this and how this is going to change how fast things happen. So we have these infusing factories here that I've already made. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make 2 more of these factories as a whole. And you can see here, it's pretty simple. You just do 2 of those basic control circuits we learned how to make last episode, 2 iron and 4 redstone. So let's go ahead. Let's make 2 more of these. Why not? Then let's go ahead and grab some coal. Let's just do 2 stacks. Then we'll go ahead and we'll get 2 stacks of iron. We're going to need another flux point. I'm going to go ahead and make one of those. And And then we probably want some cables. So you saw how we turned these into factories using that simple little crafting recipe. This advanced one is the same thing, but you just use the advanced circuits instead of those basic ones. So we are going to want to hook our 2 infusing factories up to some power. Let's go ahead and just link up 2 cables and then a flux point. Now these guys are powered. That's simple enough. And then we should worry about our side configs. Last episode, we went over that here. So we're going to make sure our top is extra. For the infusing material, we have to put it in this extra slot here, the yellow one. So it says extra. We want to make sure the top says extra. We're going to do that on both of these. And then we want to make sure that the right one here has a left side input. And then this one, we want to make sure the left side is input, the right side is output. And then we can go ahead and put our logistical transporters on top. We can put our drawer here. Same filter method is over there. And this one has the coal. And if you remember, we need that carbon in order to turn the iron into enriched iron. And then we need the carbon to turn the enriched iron into steel dust. Then we can set up a barrel here and another transporter there. Don't forget to disconnect this and to turn this on. Now, this will only pull iron into the factory here, and this one will only pull coal. So before we start, let's let these both fill up with enough coal. This will take a minute because these are just basic transporters, but this is just for the sake of the tutorial. So I pre-filled this all up. We're full of our carbon. We can go ahead and throw the rest of our coal back in there. And then I put our iron ingots in this barrel. Let's go ahead and let's open this up. It's going to start its infusion. Now, as you can see here, it's going to start turning that iron into the enriched iron again. And we have it on a much larger scale. We've got 3 going instead of just 1. And this will turn it into its steel dust. And then we'll just have to export this into like a furnace, for example, over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little smelting factory set up right next to this with a barrel next to that it exports into. So I'm going to put the diamond furnace right next to this. These are super easy to make. There's a whole quest book here for that. You got generators and furnaces. To make an iron furnace, you just put a furnace in, 8 iron around, and then you do this over and over until you're satisfied. So I just have a diamond one here, and then we need to put our little upgrades in here. So we've got speed. It halves the cook time for everything. It uses twice the amount of fuel. We're not necessarily going to need this because this is kind of just passive automation. And then we have the factory upgrade, which makes this powered by power instead of burnt fuel. So we're going to go ahead and turn our auto input on and off. Then we're going to turn left to input, right to output. Then we're going to put our barrel right next to that. And as you can see, that's kind of what we got going on here. This is that final enrichment that turns it to dust, straight into a furnace, straight into here. So you'll see once we power this, this will start smelting up. And we're going to have all this steel coming straight into here. And then your steel automation is kind of set up. The only thing that needs to be automated is coal production or charcoal production, and then iron production. If you don't want to sit here and manually do everything yourself, this is a good little passive early game steel smeltery. And you can see we're already kind of pumping it out. And this will go until we run out of coal or iron, whichever one runs out first. But this will keep our coal topped off, and this will keep us constantly with iron. And these basic pipes kind of keep this paced and slower, so it's not something that's overwhelming. You're not going to get bottlenecked by it, which is really nice. So now you understand how to make steel on a bigger scale, and you see how we made those factories. You can make a ton of these tanks. They store a ton of liquids and gases. And I'll show you how to make those real quick. So let's go ahead and let's search up dynamic tank. So each bucket and 4 steel that you use to make dynamic tanks crafts you 4 of them. And then you need to make 2 dynamic valves, which is one of those basic control circuits, and 4 dynamic tanks. And you need one for input, one for output in your system. So make sure to make these. And then the smallest size you can make is a 3x3x3, and you just leave the center block empty, like the very center, you leave that empty. And then you can see here, you've got a little interface. It tells you how much you have of said gas or liquid. These are just 4x4x4, and you can see I've got over 1 billion millibuckets of gas storage, which is pretty good. So now that we've kind of gone over the changes that we set up here, let's check back in with our quarry here. As you can see, it made a little bit more progress, and it's not hung up on one thing. We've already got 5 compressed blocks of diamond, which I'd say that's pretty decent. Like, this is super, super powerful. We didn't have to do hardly anything for it. All we had to do to get this was get 4 nuggets of all the modium. I don't power it and put a box on top of it. Like, this is super, super, super strong. So I decided that we should probably move our base of operations, and we should really focus on setting up a great storage room and kind of transforming our base from this like warehouse looking thing into an actual functioning warehouse. If we're gonna stick with that theme, we're gonna have to at least transform the shape of it and the feel of it, but we're gonna keep the base elements the same. I kind of want to introduce a thought to you as we start moving here. As we move forward, we're going to be doing small thought exercises as we play. As the name suggests, mindful thoughts are a priority around here. So as we sort of transform our base here, let's talk about the topic of identity as a whole and personal identity as another version of identity. We're, in a way, altering the identity of our base, no? Or are we? How do we define identity? We usually use that term in conjunction with a descriptor of a person or a thing, right? But what if we turn that into a thought exercise? How do you know that you are, yourself, personally identifying as one thing or another? When we look at ourselves in the mirror, what stands out to us? Each of us have our own qualifying feature, physically, that we hold on to as a part of ourselves. We usually either look at that feature as one of two things, a flaw or an attribute. We give that feature a sense of meaning that either drives an insecurity or vice versa, a secure feeling about ourselves. Now, I'm no stranger to this. However, mine lies with the former, and I'm sure most of us can relate to that. But does that really change who we are because we find a flaw in our face? My answer on that is definitely no. That feature may have memories associated with it, and that alone speaks to me and says no. Maybe I was self-conscious of one thing or another, but at the end of the day, I had myself and my memory of when that feature didn't matter to me. So could we truly allow the identity of ourselves as people be based on those physical features? Sure, what others perceive first are the physical attributes or flaws you possess, but simply knowing that, aren't we pseudo-bulletproofing ourselves from a criticism that could penetrate that layer that protects our true identity? That leads me into part 2 of this TED Talk. That personal identity, if I were to remain the same from the inside out, feelings and emotions, values and virtues, connections and experiences, the things that make me whole, and my physical identity changed, would any of those things make me different? I don't personally think so, but of course, there's a canon of thinkers that would look at the question and ask, what about everyone else? And they'd probably continue with, collectively, with the 8 billion people on this planet, surely there's no way your experience is wholly unique, so you don't have a complete unique identity. And to that, I'd say, while there may be truth to that statement, the makeup we put on every day is just that. It's makeup. The core values that you have inherited come and go, but that makeup on the outside remains the same because of your genetic makeup, literally and figuratively. If I change my shirt, I'm not a different person. I'm the same everyday guy that likes to stay clean. Red shirt or blue shirt, I am still me. I'm still the guy who used to be mad or was mad. And my personal identity decides whether or not blue makes me happier than red. It isn't, I will change the color of my shirt so that I look happier. It's, I will change the color of my shirt to blue because it makes me happier. Which part of that is my personal identity? The part that stays the same, which is that yearning for order and cleanliness. The only part that changes is the physical identity, the thing that we don't necessarily define ourselves by. If we show humility in the slightest, surely we all look different, but we mostly all share at least a few uniquely similar in a way family experiences, social experiences, and personal experiences. So the memory of those experiences is different for us all, and the sensory experiences of those experiences are what most of us share. That warm feeling from a hug, that mouth-watering sensation from our personal childhood favorite food, and even the excitement and joy that we feel when our personal identity's needs are met. Don't just let that identity flee, the one that's inherently human, the one that has the beliefs and carries the love. That's the identity that is in its constant state of entropy. It's you all the time, at your worst, at your best, and surely when no one's watching. Now that that's over, I hope you guys kind of enjoyed a little bit more of a thought experience instead of just some random building. But let's check this thing out real quick. So in here, I think I made us big enough space that we can actually fit storage in rows, kind of like a warehouse would, with like racks and stuff like that. And I chunk aligned it so that it's actually able to be loaded really easily. And then we're going to have kind of a grid design based off of these chunks. And as you can see, I have it kind of offset just a little bit. So we have the entirety of our base packed up and it's in my backpack. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to use this little hole behind me here. There's a little mega torch in there, keep the mobs away. But I'm going to show you how we're going to link up our first little refined storage system with the functional storage. We should clear out a second layer below this so we have some room to work. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, a couple of things. I set up our drawers and ran through the filtering so I can show you how this entire system works. I also made a refined storage auto crafter and some patterns. So let me give you a tour and a guide on how to craft the pieces. This is exactly why we needed all of our slimes, because we need a ton of these processor bindings. Of course, you can use a couple other things in here, but slime is definitely the easiest and most reliable option. And then you can use any string basically. But you need these processor bindings. Like, you're gonna need a ton of these. So let's start with the controller, because we can't do anything with our system unless we have a controller and a way to power this. So you need to make one advanced processor. You need 4 quartz enriched iron, 3 silicone, and then 1 machine casing. Now, these are going to be 2 of our main resources that we need a ton of for refined storage. To craft quartz enriched iron, all you need to do is put 3 iron ingots and 1 nether quartz, and you get 4 enriched iron. So it's a pretty fair trade. Then the next thing, the silicone. All you have to do to get silicone is just smelt your quartz and you get silicone. So it's preferred that you probably have a large quantity of nether quartz to start this off. And you'll see later on next episode, we're gonna automate resource generation. We're not gonna automate resource acquisition, if you will, right? We're not gonna have Quarry set up all the time everywhere. We're gonna have farms set up that make these things for us. So that's how you make your controller. You got to make your machine casing. That's just 8 quartz enriched iron and any stone. So that's also pretty simple. Then you're going to need a grid. The grid will let you see into the system, but it won't let you craft through the system. All you're going to need is any kind of glass, one of those machine casings, 1 quartz enriched iron, and then you're going to need these processors here, right? And these cores. So the improved processor is that same processor binding, basically, this, into a recipe with 1 gold ingot, 1 redstone dust, 1 silicone, 1 processor binding, and you get 1. That's why we need a lot of this stuff, because it doesn't go very far. Then you just smelt that up and you get your actual processor. So then that's our improved processor. Now, what about these cores? So the construction core is a basic processor and 1 glowstone dust. And a basic processor is that same recipe, but with iron instead of gold. And you can probably guess these advanced processors, it's the same, but with a diamond. So you need this basic processor here. You can make a destruction core with it, with quartz, and you can make a construction core with glowstone. And so that's your 2 cores. Next, after that, you need a crafting grid. And that's what you needed to make that grid for. You'll just need a crafting table and one of those advanced processors. And that'll get you your crafting grid. So then you've got 2 of your 3 main pieces here. Next up is the disk drive. I'm going to show you this specifically because you can't really do anything without your internal storage buffer, and you can't do that without a disk drive because there's nowhere to put your little storage pieces. Like your storage disks here, you can't put those in the system. They have to be in a drive. So that's just 6 quartz. That's just 6 quartz enriched iron, one of those machine casings, 1 chest of any kind, and another one of those advanced processors. And then let's go ahead and look at this real quick. So this is our disk drive. You can put your disk in there. That has 16,000 available slots, so you can put 16,000 items total in there. Then you've got your crafting grid, and as you see here, you've got a crafting table inside of that. And then our controller, let's go ahead and go down here, is right here. So we're sending power to this through our flux point, and then we've got it hooked up over here to our storage controller from functional storage, and then our inventory connector from our Tom Simple Storage mod. Now, this isn't pretty yet, but we need to use a janky little setup until we get applied energistics and can tuck all of this away. So moving on, we had to make that refined storage controller, a storage drive, crafting grid, pattern grid, storage cables, and some external storages. This is our external storage. I'll go ahead and I'll show you how to craft this. Without that external storage, we can't attach this functional storage setup up. So for this, you're going to need one of those construction cores, 1 destruction, 3 quartz enriched iron, 1 cable, 2 chests of any kind, and 1 improved processor. And then to make the cable, you just need 6 quartz enriched iron, 2 glass of any kind, 1 redstone, and you've got 12 cables from that. So that's how you make that external storage, and I'll show you exactly how this works. So right now, you can see we've got a ton of stuff in here, right? But you can see we've got everything that is in our functional storage system, right? We've got all of that in here. You'll notice this drive has nothing on it, but we have all of this stuff. And the reason and the way that we're doing that is through these external storages here. This is a multi-block storage set up via the external storage. This is our drawer storage for our bulk stuff. So when you go in here, you can see I have 1.2 million items stored in this. You can go to the priority, and this is the most important part. So I'm going to display how this works using some lapis. So let's change this priority to 0. And then I'm going to go back up here. This says 1044 lapis. If I go and I put this in the system, it's still reading this, right? But I changed the priority. And let's look at the priority on this one. This one, I have it set to 5. We're going to set the external storage on the inventory connector to 1. We're going to set the priority on this one to 2. And remember, this one here has a priority of 0. So when I go and I input this, it's back in there. But look, we still have 1044 lapis in that drawer, and we have 1 stack of an item in the 16K storage disk. So we can go ahead and take that back out. I gotta fix this real quick. I just wanted to show you how these priorities work. I always like to make sure that my functional storage is always the highest priority, and then my random bulk storage is second highest priority, and then my refined storage or applied energistics system is the next lowest, because what happens is it will fill this whole multi-block storage setup, which as you can see has 2084 free slots at the moment. It'll fill that up before it even touches our storage disk here. So I went back and I put it in, and now it's at 1108. But this is just a good way to keep your storage modular, and it allows you to be able to actually sort things and know where things are going, because this doesn't tell you what's in it. The only way to see what's in it is to disconnect everything else, and then you'll see that's the only stuff in that disk. And it gets kind of messy sometimes, so I just prefer to sectionalize all of my storage just like that. And then if you look right next to me, this is our auto crafter, but we need a couple more things in order to use this auto crafter, right? We need some patterns. So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna change this to only craftables, and you'll see I've got these crafting recipes here. So if I click on, let's just say, this basic processor, and I hit start, it's gonna tell me everything I need in order to craft that item. I'm gonna do that. So we just made it, and it went into our functional storage system. Because look, we still got nothing in here. But how did I do that? I used this crafter here, and all of these are recipe patterns. But there's a way that we make these recipe patterns. You just need 3 quartz enriched iron, 3 redstone dust, 3 of any glass, and you get 1. And then in order to make them, we need this pattern grid here. It's another one of those grids, a pattern, and then an advanced processor. So just show this again. It's just 3 quartz enriched iron, 3 redstone dust, 3 glass of any kind, get that pattern. And then what I usually like to do is I start by making a pattern. All of our recipes from up here, I make those, and then I like to make drawers and upgrades and chests and stuff like that, because that helps us kind of snowball forwards, and it's super helpful. So for this, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, but we're going to do it with like a storage part, right? Because we need a ton of these, and I don't want to manually craft all of these. And you'll see here, we have our pattern. And if I go in here, I put this in. So if I want to make this storage part, I can click this like plus 64. It's telling me I need 232 more silicone, 191 more glass. And then I've got my quartz enriched iron and my redstone dust ready for that. But as you can see there, that's how you like essentially snowball into this. And we also have these in here, right? Remember, we have to smelt these, and you'll notice this is netherite furnace. And we've got these patterns in here, and these are processing patterns. So the processing pattern, say I want to make one of these. Let's just do 10, right? You can see them coming in here. They auto smelt, and then they import back into our system here. Then they go straight over here into our drawer. Then there's one more part to this system, but I'm going to save that for next episode. That's where we're going to get into mystical agriculture and a few automations. And we're going to need a way to transport our materials across the world completely wirelessly. So we need to use these network transmitters and receivers to connect our mystical agriculture farm to our system. And if you notice up there next to the controller, there's a special block. And so we'll jump into that next episode. But we're still going to use Ender Chest for some of the farms because the transportation is instantaneous. Remember our predictions we set up for the slimes? We're going to need to secure a creeper data model and a skeleton data model. With these, we're going to make 2 more setups just like the one we did for the slimes, except we're going to combine it, and I'll show you how. We need to do this if we want to automate our mystical agriculture system in any capacity that can keep up with us. But that's all going to have to wait for next episode. It's going to be a good one. There are so many things we're going to automate and coordinate the means of production right here in this base and at our farm base. With all that being said, I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. I'm trying to pump these videos out as fast as possible and retain the quality and length of the videos. So if you enjoyed something from this episode, please go ahead and let me know in the comments. Thank you to everyone who has been supporting this channel. It means so much to me. Thank you for your time, and remember, have a great rest of your day.